Thank you, Right Honorable Madam Speaker. Right Honorable Madam Speaker, honorable members of the reconstituted Transitional National Legislature, in accordance with Article 88 of the Transitional Constitution, requires an annual budget to be prepared and presented to this August House. Therefore, allow me to present the fiscal year 2022-2023 draft national budget proposal. This draft budget proposal set out an estimate of government expenditure and the revenue projection that is likely to be realized to finance the estimated expenditure for the year 2022-2023. In addition to Article 88, the Public Financial Management and Accountability Act of 2011 requires the draft budget proposal to be submitted and accompanied by the draft appropriation bill, draft financial bill, and the statement of overall indebtedness of the government of South Sudan in financial year 2022-2023. Madam Speaker, honorable members of the reconstituted Transitional National Legislature, the financial year 2022-2023 budget has been prepared in a challenging environment of generalized rise in the global prices of goods and services. This rise has two effects on our economy. The first is positive impact on our oil revenue, which could enhance physical space and reform efforts towards the establishment of a reversed public financial management system. The second is a negative impact on our economy of global rise in goods and services, which is likely to offset the gains arising from increase in oil revenue. Madam Speaker, honorable members of the reconstituted Transitional National Legislature, it is imperative to mention at this point that the execution of the financial year 2022-2023 budget will be affected by global macroeconomic instability, underpinned by climate changes, COVID-19 pandemic, and man-made disaster, such as the current war in Ukraine. Moreover, endogenous factors such as poor road infrastructure, intercommunal conflict, and insecurity in some parts of the country are some of the challenges that will affect South Sudan economy during the implementation of proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Madam Speaker, honorable members, the financial year 2022-2023 budget, therefore, aims to address the endogenous factors which are within our control. Peace is a prerequisite for tackling these endogenous factors, and financial year 2022-2023 budget gives priority to implementation of revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in South Sudan, which is our ACRIS. The second priority area is complementary to the first, is infrastructure in general and road in particular. This is the context which consolidate peace, combat COVID-19 pandemic, stimulate the economy through the practical and tangible combination of fiscal and monetary policy measures, and more importantly, Madam Speaker and honorable members, the financial year 2022-2023 budget is guided by the revised National Development Strategy, with the 5 clusters of the peace agreement as its key pillars to promote economic stability and facilitate private sector participation in the economy. The budget also enhances our social spending to prevent the worsening poverty level despite constraints and physical conditions. Madam Speaker and honorable members, the economic recovery process is also spurred. We are optimistic that as more people return to their homes and engage in productive activity, including agriculture, the economic recovery can be sustained. However, on the government side and through this budget, we will do as much as we can within the government's limited resources to support the pathway towards peace. In this regard, we have provided resources towards the implementation of our actions and to support services delivery by increasing allocations to the social sector as well as state transfer. Madam Speaker, honorable members, in summary, the financial year 2022-2023 budget is consistent with our commitment to refrain from monetary financing to meet our objectives for sustainable and inclusive growth without reliance on non-concessionary external financing. That is, we will use our limited resources to consolidate peace, combat COVID-19 pandemic, stabilize the economy. We will particularly focus on improving infrastructure to create a more conducive environment for the investment and diversification away from oil, while at the same time focus on social sector in order to mitigate against pervasive poverty and embark on sustainable livelihood of our people. We are therefore hopeful that the reforms within the budget, combined with the peace, will lay the foundation for resilient institutions, for effective service delivery, economic recovery, growth, and poverty reduction. Madam Speaker, honorable members, South Sudan is a small open economy which is easily affected by what takes place within the global economic system. The global economy is currently under enormous stress from climate changes, COVID-19 pandemic, and war in Ukraine. Hence, global growth was expected to moderate from 5.9% in 2021 to 5.4% in 2022. And it is expected to slow down further to 3.8% in 2023. This decline was expected to be accelerated by high inflation caused by energy higher prices and supply chain problems, mobility restrictions brought by COVID-19 as well as the recent war in Ukraine, the severe floods which have hit South Sudan for the 3rd year in a row, has affected oil production, which has declined from 169,000 barrels a day in fiscal year 2020 to 2021 to 156,000 barrels a day in fiscal year 2021-2022. It is projected to further drop to around 150,000 barrels a day in fiscal year 2022-2023. The floods have also affected agricultural output and killed livestock and have had severe impact on people's access to essential services and humanitarian aid. The negative effect of floods are reflected in the projected 2.8% contraction in our yearly gross domestic product in fiscal year 2021-2022. As a result, our yearly GDP is expected to grow by 2.1% in fiscal year 2022-2023. Madam Speaker, honorable members, the rise in the oil prices in the global market has improved our oil revenue. However, the resources estimate is constrained given the rise in the prices of the imported commodities. As a consequence, economic policy formulation implementation will be a real challenge in the light of the macroeconomic outlook. which I have just outlined. Madam Speaker, honorable members of reconstituted transitional national legislature, the approval of 2021-2022 budget was behind schedule due to delay in the reconstituting the transitional national legislature. However, the Ministry of Finance and Planning was able to utilize the little resources available to meet some of the government expenditure. Madam Speaker, honorable members, the revenue collected in the first 2 quarters was 454.9 billion SSP and was above the budget target of 362.4 billion SSP. This is due to the rise in the crude oil prices and improvement in tax administration by National Revenue Authority. Madam Speaker, honorable members, the total agency spending in the last 2 quarters below by 13.6% as compared to the projected agency's spending of 50%. The total spending on wages and salaries was 26.9 billion SSP, while the use on goods and services amounted to 60.7 billion SSP. Furthermore, the capital expenditure, transfer, and other expenditures were 5.4 billion SSP, 11.6 billion SSP, and 2.9 billion respectively. In addition to the above expenditure, Ministry of Finance and Planning was able to pay some of the mediatory obligations. The obligations include payment to Sudan tariffs, which is 0.3 billion, oil producing state administrative areas, 2.3 billion SSP, oil producing communities, 3.5 billion SSP, oil for infrastructure, 107.6 billion SSP, future generation fund, 1.2 billion SSP, oil reserve revenue stabilization account, or SA, is 51.1 billion, transferred to the Ministry of Petroleum, 3%, 3.5 billion SSP, NRA operation funds, 3.2 billion SSP. Madam Speaker, honorable members of reconstituted transitional national legislature, the government has adopted 4 sets of economic policy measures to attain the objectives of 2022-2023 budget. Madam Speaker, honorable members, attaining the growth objectives of 2022-2023 demands that the private sector must play a stronger role in economic development. It is also imperative that South Sudanese participate fully in the various economic activities. In addition, availability and access to credit will need to be enhanced. On our part as government, we should continue to focus on implementing structural reforms and providing infrastructure in order to reduce the cost of doing business. Madam Speaker, honorable members, our first fiscal policy focus on maintaining macroeconomic and public debt stability, as well as reinforcing transparency and discipline in budget execution. The higher oil revenues have enabled us to eliminate domestic salary arrears as of the end of June 2022. This will in turn help reduce the pressure from global prices rise on household and purchasing power. Madam Speaker and honorable members, high oil prices continuing to improve in the non-oil revenue will increase the resources envelope in 2022-2023. At the same time, there are pressing needs for higher spending. First, the unification of the armed forces that was agreed in April 2022 implies an increase in the number of military personnel and for about 2/3, which increased the wage bill, in addition to mitigate the impact of sharply higher food and fuel prices. The financial year 2022-2023 draft budget includes an upward adjustment of 20% in the pay scale for the public sector employees. Madam Speaker, honorable members, we are looking to raise spending on health, education, to the extent possible. Although the payment to Sudan under the Transitional Financial Arrangement, which is called TFA, of 2012 were completed in March 2022, in principle should increase physical space. No agreement has yet been reached with Sudan on the kind of overpayment of the crude oil previously supplied to Sudan, which was 28,000 barrels a day. The draft budget for 2022-2023 targets an overall deficit of 560 billion, about 21% of GDP. This came about due to the debt services obligation and long repayment of 183 billion SSP, about 7% of GDP. And I would also like to inform the Agak House that while we are await the adoption of financial year of 2022-2023 budget, the Ministry of Finance and Planning has uploaded the spending envisaged under the draft budget in the Integrated Financial Management Information System. To facilitate expenditure control, this is the first time in our history of budgeting to take this critical step within our public financial management. Madam Speaker, honorable members, we are committed to refrain from any new monetary financing of the deficit, and we will continue our policy of reserved money targeting. Given the current state of development of South Sudan physical sector, the policy leaves at the disposal of Bank of South Sudan. Reserve money targeting remains the appropriate monetary policy framework to be pursued by the Bank of South Sudan for the time being. The Bank of Southern Sudan will continue to implement this framework by targeting an annual reserve money growth rate of 10% or lower. The Bank of Southern Sudan also continues to conduct regular foreign exchange auction to aid price discovery in relation to the exchange rate and publish auction data on both websites in a timely manner to foster confidence among market participants. Madam Speaker, honorable members, the monetary authorities has introduced a new term, deficit facility, as a first step to expanding the monetary policy toolkit of the BOST, and will refine the auction mechanism and terms of these facilities to develop into a viable means of managing liquidity as needed. The monetary authority are also considering the introduction of BOST bills as an additional instrument for liquidity management. The BOST will coordinate closely with the Ministry of Finance through the establishment of Cash Management Committee to improve the capacity of the government for liquidity monitoring and forecasting with a view to tackling market development better and responding to them effectively using the tools at our disposal. Madam Speaker, honorable members of reconstituted transitional national legislature, the BOST will address the undercapitalization of the domestic banking sector and take steps to improve banking supervision and financial inclusion. Our approach to addressing the undercapitalization of domestic banks will be to promote merge where possible and to enforce liquidation where needed. Madam Speaker, honorable members, in light of South Sudan's limited experience with the bank resolution, we have requested urgent technical assistance on this form from the International Monetary Fund, and an International Monetary Fund Technical Assistance Mission is scheduled to take place in September 2022, while with International Monetary Assistance, the BOST has compiled new quarterly financial soundness indicator. In accordance with the current best practice, the Bank of South Sudan will now publish the new FSI at quarterly frequently from beginning of the financial year 2022-2023 onward. In the medium term, our monetary authority intend to reduce the cost of cash transaction by phasing out low denomination banknotes and to reduce the cash reliance of the economy through supportive policies, including paying civil servants through the bank accounts and in that way completely eliminate the occurrence of arrears on the wages and salaries of the public sector's employees. Madam Speaker, honorable members of the Transitional National Legislature, the government long-term debt management objective will be to raise adequate level of financing at minimum cost and risk. In addition, we will pursue strategies to ensure that the national public debt is maintained at sustainable level. In this regard, a loan committee will be operationalized. The working method of loan committee will advise on all proposals for external financing and oversees the coordination of debt data will be set out in details in ministerial order of Minister of Finance by September 2022. This will set out inter alia the frequency of meetings, the responsibility for providing secretariat support, and procedures for reporting and publishing the loan committee meeting minutes. Madam Speaker, honorable members of the reconstituted Transitional National Legislature, our outstanding public debt at 30th June 2022 stands at 2.05 billion USA dollars. In addition, Madam Speaker, honorable members of Transitional National Legislature, we plan to establish a consolidated database of all existing external debt obligations, including grantees, oil advances. The consolidated database will be validated by the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Petroleum, and the Bank of South Sudan. Moreover, the debt stock, including amount by currency and creditors of the hand, as of the end of December 2021, has been published on the Ministry of Finance website. The database will subsequently be updated on quarterly basis and published on the Ministry of Finance website not later than 30 days following each reporting quarter. With respect to borrowing, Ministry of Finance and Planning shall solicitize money from credible lenders to finance the fiscal gap. Therefore, these policy measures will enable us to implement the fiscal budget for 2022-2023 budget with some elements of certainty and optimism. Madam Speaker, honorable members, with regard to aid, the government will work with the developing partners to improve on aid architects whose objective is to ensure that the aid is aligned with the government priorities to ensure regular monitoring and evaluation and reporting for effective implementation of revised national development strategy. Madam Speaker, honorable members of reconstituted Transitional National Legislature, in July 2021, the Council of Ministers approved the Public Financial Management Reform Strategy. Public financial management will be critical in supporting not only good governance and transparency, but also to effective and efficient delivery of the essential goods and services to our citizens. Furthermore, the government will work with the stakeholders to implement an immediate action plan for reforms in this area consistent with Chapter 4 of Revitalized Agreement for Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan. Madam Speaker, honorable members of the Constituted Transitional National Legislature, the projected revenue for the year 2022-2023 amount to 832.8 billion SSP, while proposed spending is 10 at 1.3 trillion SSP. This means a gap of 560 billion SSP will be financed through borrowing and other sources. Madam Speaker, honorable members of reconstituted transitional national legislature, gross domestic revenue of for the year 2022-2023 are estimated at 832.8 billion, and of this amount, 715.7 billion SSP is oil revenue, while the remainder of 513.6 billion SSP is non-oil revenue. The total oil production is projected at 150 barrels per day in financial year 2022-2023, down from 160 barrels per day in the financial year 2021-2022. The projected reduction of 6,000 barrels per day in oil production is due to depletion of some oil wells, as well as the effect of floods experienced in 2021. Government profit share in the oil production is 44%, while the benchmark price for the DAR blend is projected to be $75 per barrel. Madam Speaker, honorable members, out of the gross oil revenue of 715.7 billion SSP, the government has provided the direct transfer or mediatory payments of 545.3 billion SSP, out of which 92 billion SSP tariff is directed transfer to Sudan, transfer to oil-producing states and administrative area 2%, 12.5 billion SSP to the communities, 3%, which is 18.7 million SSP transferred to Ministry of Petroleum, 3% of SSP 18.7 million SSP ordinary mediatory directory transfer as oil for road project is 238.2 billion SSP. Future generation funds 10% is 62.4 billion SSP. Oil revenue stabilization account or ISA, which is 15%, is 93.6 billion SSP. National Revenue Authority operations is 8%, which is 9.4 billion SSP. Madam Speaker, honorable members, non-oil revenue are projected as 117 billion in fiscal year 2022-2023, an increase of 58.8 billion. The projected increase in non-oil revenue is on account of the tax administration reform undertaken by National Revenue Authority, which include digitalization of tax collection, broadening the tax base, and the proposal to fully deploy National Revenue Authority staff in all the non-tax revenue collecting institutions. In addition, we have proposed some adjustment in the fee structure for some of the non-oil revenue categories. These proposals are included in the fiscal bill for the financial year 2022-2023. It is essential, therefore, that the House passes the financial bill alongside the budget, so that we have a legal base for our revenue estimate. Madam Speaker, honorable members, the total expenditure proposal for the financial year 2022-2023 is 1.3 trillion SSP. Of this amount, 198.2 billion goes to wages, salaries, and 165.3 billion SSP for the use of goods and services, and 128.9 billion is capital. The other expenditure is 5.2 billion SSP. 15 billion SSP is allocated for peace implementation, and 13.5 billion SSP is contingency. Madam Speaker, honorable members, financial year 2022-2023, we have allocated 41.6 billion for state administrative areas, and 67.1 billion SSP as salary arrears for foreign missions. Madam Speaker, honorable members, allow me to take you through the expenditure estimate by sector. A, the accountability sector is allocated 2.3 billion SSP. The economic function sector has been allocated 73.1 billion SSP. The education sector is given 107.8 billion SSP. The health sector is allocated 33.7 billion SSP. The infrastructure sector is given 12.5 billion, and this is in addition to the oil for roads project of 238.2 billion SSP. Natural resources sector has been allocated 67.3 billion SSP. Allocation to public administration sector is 117.3 billion SSP. Allocation to the rule of law sector is 31.7 billion SSP. The security sector is allocated 75.3 billion SSP. The social and humanitarian affairs sector is given 6.1 billion SSP. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, honorable members of the reconstituted transitional national legislature, the macroeconomic challenges in our country faces today require sound economic policies to move towards stability, sustainable economic recovery. I am confident that the financial year 2022-2023 budget proposal will continue to consolidate peace and stabilize the economy to realize economic growth, sustainable development. We need to commit ourselves to ensure public resources are used efficiently, and effectively for the benefit of all the South Sudanese. Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members of the constituted transitional national legislature, allowed me to table the draft national budget proposal, appropriation bill, and fiscal financial bill for the fiscal year 2022-2023 for the approval by this August House in accordance with the Public Financial Act, Accountability Act 2011, which provides for the 45 days for the Honorable August House to pass the financial year budget. Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I would say thank you for listening.